And welcome to our webinar on getting started with LoRaWAN end device certification. We're very happy to have all of you join us. Just some quick housekeeping notes. Please press F5 on your keyboard to refresh. That normally solves most of the issues. And at the end, we'll have a short question and answer session. My name is Ralph Stillinger with Zenner USA, and I'm the chairman of the certification committee here at the LoRa Alliance. It's great to have everybody join us today. And I also want to introduce a special guest, Paul Hampton, the Vice President of the certification with the LoRa Alliance. He brings a wealth of experience and knowledge on device certification. Paul, welcome.
Thanks, Ralph. Appreciate it. Today we're going to cover a handful of subjects here. We'll start with what is LoRaWAN, and then move on to the importance of certification, key elements of certification, the certification process for LoRaWAN devices, and we'll talk a bit about some best practices and wrap up with question and answer period. So starting out, what is LoRaWAN? Well, first off, LoRaWAN is the word is kind of a mashup of several others. Long range, wide area network is what LoRaWAN stands for. Its notable characteristics are that, of course, it's a very low power technology. Battery operated sensors and controls can operate in the field for years without change of batteries. Wide area coverage, leveraging the chirp modulation technique, LoRaWAN's operational range is typically 15 kilometers, but some trials have actually experienced operational ranges exceeding 1,300 kilometers, which is absolutely amazing. LoRaWAN uses what's called a star of stars architecture, which means that you have a gateway which has end devices that connect to that gateway, and that gateway then feeds all of that information, the communications between the end devices and the gateway back to a network server. It's very similar to how cellular networks are designed today. So with the potential for millions or even billions of LoRaWAN devices to be deployed throughout the world, it's critical all of those devices work and perform as expected. And more importantly than that, even to behave well within a LoRaWAN network. Devices at a minimum must be compliant with the LoRaWAN standards developed and maintained by the LoRa Alliance. To help assure the critical performance of the devices, LoRaWAN certification is a crucial step in the development and deployment of these end devices. So certification, the importance of all LoRaWAN compliant network elements is to interoperate within those network elements. And devices of any manufacturers need to operate correctly within any manufacturer's network server or gateway. In the hostile world with which we live in the internet, security is a critical piece and is at the forefront of protecting the public infrastructure that we all depend on. Water supplies, electrical grids, transportation, and communications networks are all vulnerable to hackers. LoRaWAN certification verifies end devices correctly implement the safety security guards to block those attacks from hackers. For OEMs, LoRaWAN certification gives them and their customers the confidence that their products will perform as intended and on any compliant network which provides protection from mischievous and wannabe hackers to hacktivists to black hats hackers. Last but not least, LoRaWAN certification of your end device will open the doors for you to sell your product. More and more municipalities and large corporations are requiring that their devices be certified, and in their RFPs and tenders, they'll typically state that they want those devices to be certified. So if you don't have devices that are certified to offer your potential customers in the municipalities and large corporations, you won't even get the time of day sometimes if you can't prove that your devices are certified. So basically, they'll move on to the next supplier. Ensuring your device meets the requirements for LoRaWAN certification starts before you place your first component on the PCB board. Review the LoRaWAN certification test specifications is critical early on in the process. You can find the certification test plan on the LoRaWAN website, and the current version is version 1.6.1. And by reviewing that, it'll provide you with the core protocol tests that are performed during the certification process, as well as which of those tests are critical to making sure that you pass your certification for your device. Pay close attention to your design to maximize RF radiation. Most of the devices that we're building, end devices, rely on an internal radiator, RF radiator or antenna, which typically at best has 0 dB gain and usually has something less than that, somewhere in the range of -1 to I've seen as low as -6 dB. So having an antenna internal to your device already puts you at a disadvantage. So make sure you pay close attention to designing the RF portion of your device for maximum capabilities. Referencing technical recommendation TR007 is also highly recommended early on in the process. There's some great best practices and information in TR007 that will give you an advantage as you're building your device, and also help to keep you from having to go redesign your device as you move on through the process of development of your device and going through the certification process. Those issues will certainly cost you valuable time to market, and by utilizing the best practices in TR007, you can hopefully avoid those kinds of roadblocks. Pre-testing your device prior to submitting it for certification is absolutely critical. And LoRa Alliance members each receive a license for our testing tool called the LCTT, or LoRaWAN Certification Test Tool. This is free. One license is free to each of the members. And this tool is something that we've developed over the years and is continuously developing as we add different features to the LoRaWAN specification. This is, as I mentioned, is the same software tool that's used by the authorized test labs to perform certification testing. So any testing that you do with LCTT during and at the end of your research and development process for your end device is assured to be the same testing that the labs would use to do the certification testing when you request your device be certified. And lastly, keep informed of changes to the certification requirements. That document I mentioned earlier, the end device certification protocol for LoRaWAN end devices is version 1.6.1. Keep an eye on that. It's available to members on the website. And I would highly recommend you keep up to date on any changes that may occur in there that may impact not only the design of your device, but its success in passing the certification criteria. So again, I can't stress enough pre-testing your device. We provide you with the tool. The tool has been tested over time. It performs quite well, and again, it's evolving as the requirements for certification continue to also evolve. Know what test your device requires. Not all your devices, not all the devices in the market support all of the features for LoRaWAN, and those features that are marked optional in the certification, in the specification, don't necessarily have to be in there, and so you would want to make sure that those devices aren't tested if you don't support them. However, on the other hand, if your device does support one of those features, it has to be tested and has to pass those tests to be able to get certified. So if you state your device supports feature X, Y, and Z, the test plan will be developed to test feature X, Y, and Z, and you must pass those tests to be certified. So make sure your device is using the latest security protocols. Again, we have these devices that are not only measuring and maintaining, but also protecting a lot of our national infrastructure. You know, as I mentioned, the water, communications, transportation, and so on. We're seeing a lot of LoRaWAN devices being embedded in the technology that helps maintain our infrastructure. Security is a critical piece of that, and making sure that the bad guys don't get in and cause havoc with our municipal infrastructures and so on. I also earlier mentioned interoperability. This is not only interoperability between, your end device and gateways, but also interoperability between your end device and the network servers, your end device and the join servers, your end device and the application servers. All of those things need to work well together to make sure that that we can depend on these networks that are being built with LoRaWAN devices and protocols. So as you go through the process, make sure that interoperability is at the top of the list of things you pay attention to. And in the certification process, we currently are doing interoperability in a simulated environment using the LCTT. But at the beginning of next year, we will see a test plan that will be available to members to be able to do interoperability testing with any manufacturer's network server out in the market today, which is critical to making sure that all of these things play well together and you have a harmonious network out there when it's built and developed and built. Although it's not required today, we do have an RF performance test plan that we highly recommend manufacturers of end devices have run on their end device. Again, the antennas, as I spoke of earlier, are typically at a very great disadvantage as they're embedded within the device itself, which creates all sorts of barriers to good radio propagation. The RF performance test is a test that will provide your potential customers with a report and actually a graph of what the radiation patterns are like, what the total effective radiated power is, as well as the receive sensitivity or intrinsic receive sensitivity that your device can experience. But these are all critical with network designers, and it's important that they not only know what the radiated power is, but the receiver sensitivity as well as the pattern that will help them to place these devices in situations or in positions that will maximize their ability to perform well. And maintain a compliance folder for each of your LoRaWAN devices. The certification process depends on a lot of documentation in terms of what tests were run, what tests were passed, what tests were failed, and so on. And just for your own benefit, it's highly recommended that you keep a compliance folder for each of your devices so that you can go back and reference those test cases and reference your design, reference your process for building your device, and potentially identify any issues that may arise in the future and be able to go back to your documentation, find out what went wrong and where it went wrong, and correct it. So again, it's great information to have, and it's critical to be able to go back and reference that information. And then lastly, the LoRa Alliance will take all of the information you provide in the terms of logs that are generated by the LCTT, your application form, which describes the features that your device supports. We'll match that with the test results that we see, making sure that everything was tested that you claimed your device supports. And assuming everything passes, why we will then issue a certificate of compliance for your device that's based on that criteria. On that certificate, you'll see a number of things, details about your device, of course, make, model of the device, as well as the various features that it supported that are optional features. So summing everything up, best practices, make sure your certification is in mind from the beginning of your project. Develop a relationship early on with an authorized test lab. These labs are very knowledgeable about not only testing LoRaWAN devices, but also in troubleshooting issues that arise. And a number of them are actually fairly good at helping you to identify design flaws that may impact the certification of your device. So highly recommended you develop a relationship with an authorized test lab that's, perhaps geographically close to you, or perhaps you've worked with in the past and you've already developed a trust relationship with them. They can bring a lot to your project and save you a lot of time. Be diligent about documenting the progress of your R&D. When your device is ready, use LCTT to help diagnose any issues that occur along the way. So as soon as your device is ready in the development process, use LCTT to start testing it and identifying any issues that may still be present in your device so that you can fix them early on in the process, certainly well before a customer gets their hands on your device. But LCTT can save you a lot of headaches and a lot of time in getting your product to market. Stay up to date on the certification requirements and recommendations from the technical committee. Again, I mentioned TR007 is a great document that lists a number of best practices that'll help you bring a product to market faster and in a quality manner. There's another document, TS009, which is a document that describes the requirements that your device needs to adhere to so that LCTT can run your device through the various tests that it needs to do. So it's TS009 describes the protocol and the MAC commands necessary for your device to support so LCTT can control it during the test process. So in conclusion, certification of your LoRaWAN end devices is a pivotal step towards ensuring your IoT products are ready for market. By understanding the steps involved in adhering to these best practices and staying up to date, you can facilitate a smooth path to certification. I'd like to thank everyone for attending our webinar, and I'll hand it back to you, Ralph.
Thank you, Paul, for your insights. It's been a pleasure hosting this webinar with you. On this slide, I just wanted to point out that there are many reasons to join the LoRa Alliance. You can grow, collaborate, certify, boost your brand, and develop your career. In addition to the critical factor that Paul mentioned, get your device certified, that is very important. And in the marketplace, we happen to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 16,000 monthly hits. So your device would be proliferated and it would see more input, I guess. Now, let's stop and open the floor to questions. Please feel free to type your inquiries into the chat box, and Paul and I will do our best to answer them. Great. Paul, we have a question. Let's start out with our first question. First question is, what is the average time it takes for customers to go through the certification process from pre-test to listing? Well,
from pre-test, assuming that your your device passes all of the tests in the pretest, and you've gone through the debugging process and worked out all of the issues. The device passes all of the test cases in LCTT. Then it's just a matter of getting into an authorized test lab and getting through the official testing process for certification there. Typically, the actual testing part of that is only just a few days. It all depends typically on what the queue time is in getting a time slot at the authorized test labs. Most frequently, the labs are relatively open, so it could take anywhere from 10 to 15 days, again, assuming that your device passes all of the tests in the pretest portion, and there aren't any bugs found in the final testing process at the ATL.
Great, Paul. Thank you for that answer. It also answers another question that we had in the chat, which is how long does it typically take to complete your device certification? I appreciate that. We have another question here, and that is, if I get my device LoRaWAN certified and my membership lapses, do I automatically lose my certification?
Good news, bad news. Once your device is certified, it's certified. As long as the device continues to meet the requirements under which it was certified, you don't change anything in the device that might impact the certification of the device, it stays certified whether you're a member or not. The bad news part is that after you are no longer a member, you're no longer entitled to use the trademarks, which also includes the LoRaWAN certified trademark. So you would need to remove that trademark from your device packaging, and any collateral that references that certified device.
Great, thank you, Paul. I have another question for you, and that's in reference to after you've completed the certification, I need to update the software on my certified end device. Do I need to get it recertified?
Well, yeah, that depends. We do address that in the program management document, and I will at the end of the call here, I'll put some links in so that you can reference that. But there are some requirements that you have to meet. There are some things that you can change and you can make modifications to that are approved without having to go through new certification, or in most cases, any like redundant or additional testing, or going through and back testing any specific features or functions in the device. So that is covered in the program management document, and at the end of the call, I'll place some links in the window that you can use to get to that document if you don't already know where it is.
Great. Okay. I have a question here. Is the LoRaWAN certification done per regional plan?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. And the way we're doing the certifications today, because essentially each device is, if a device supports, let's say, the EU 863 region, and typically that same device doesn't also support the US 915. So those are two different devices which require two different certifications. And the same goes for all of the other regions. There's just some technical reasons that those devices aren't typically all combined into one device. I mean, sometimes those are RF related engineering issues. Sometimes they're software related engineering issues. And what we've seen is manufacturers typically will generate or produce a device which is specific to a region. Thus, we certify each device specific to a region. So if the underlying question you're getting to is that you bring out a product that basically from all looks and perception is the same product, but it has different sub-products that support the various LoRaWAN regions. Each of those LoRaWAN regions would need to be certified.
Very good. I think we also offer a discount for the sub-regions. Once you've certified one, and the follow-on regions will actually be discounted at a certain rate.
Yeah, we've just recently posted a new schedule for that, and it was to address just that very same thing, Ralph, as you pointed out. So, if you're testing, building devices that support all of the regions, there are I hesitate to call it a quantity discount, but that's kind of a good way to look at it, and that is available on the certification webpage under Causeway, which I'll also post a link to at the end of the webinar.
Very good. I have a off-topic question, Paul. What is the best way to approach tackling the LoRaWAN accredited professional exam?
Best way to tackle it.
Right.
Well, yeah. So probably the best way. I assume that the question is about how do I prepare for taking the exam. There's a lot of resources out there to review and study. Semtech has a tremendous amount of information available on their website that discusses LoRa and LoRaWAN, which is also addressed in the exam. Let's see, the Things industry also has some great information on their website, as well as of course, the LoRa Alliance has a lot of information on their website. We don't really have a formal recommendation in terms of, if you study this, you'll pass this, or if you study this, you'll pass this section, and so on. But recommendation is to find out all you can about LoRaWAN, and those resources are Semtech, us, the Things industry, and just the internet in general has a tremendous amount of information that you can use to prepare yourself.
Right. I have another question here, and it's let's get this one first. Is there an official setup, a gateway reference to run the LCT testing? LCTT testing. In other words, is there a setup for the LCTT testing environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the challenges that I've had since I started with the Alliance is to standardize on all of the different aspects of certifying devices so that we can have some comfort level of consistency in terms of the testing. Today, there is not a standard gateway. However, we have been working in the background to provide such a device, and we've been working with our member vendors who make gateways to be able to come up with either a single gateway that can handle all of the different regions in connection with the LCTT, or a smaller subset of gateways that can address the testing needs for all of the different regions in conjunction with LCTT. Ideally, what I want to get to is where we can say, here is the list of, here's the preferred gateway for doing certification testing, or if we're unable to get to that point, here is a list of gateways that have been approved for certification testing. And we're very close to that, and I ask you to kind of stay tuned here for the next couple months. Hopefully we'll be making an announcement in the next couple months, maybe right after the first of the year, about standardizing on some gateway or some gateway device to be able to give that kind of consistency.
Very good. Okay, I have another question. How do we apply for the self-testing? What are the limitations of the testing environment? And sorry, he's got one more that's addition to this question. Is there more detail for the knowledge assessment test that you just covered. So the question is how to apply the self-testing and what are the limitations of the testing environment?
The self-testing application is available on the members section of Causeway. I hate to keep saying this, but I will provide a link to that at the end of the webinar that you can go to and make application. There are some requirements. We do require that, and quite frankly, these aren't particularly onerous, but they give us a comfort level that you know what you're doing. Today, you need to be able to demonstrate that you understand how to use LCTT and you've been using it for at least 6 months and have tested a number of devices with it. You also have to go through a knowledge assessment, which is essentially a test of each of your engineers' skill set. Anybody that's in your organization that's going to be testing LoRaWAN devices for self-test has to pass this knowledge assessment with a score of 80% or greater. And the knowledge assessment is kind of a, excuse me, kind of a broad testing of your knowledge. It not only tests your knowledge of the LoRaWAN protocol and such, but LCTT certification requirements, certification procedures. Where do you get information when you have a question? Those kinds of things. And so that information is available on Causeway under the member section under certification, and there'll be a link to get to that at the end. As far as the knowledge assessment, it is not the same as the accredited professional test. It is different.
Very good, Paul. Thank you. We're running over time here, but I want to take a few more questions if possible. And one of the questions I believe is, I believe it was truncated, but there's a user that's developing a device that incorporates a LoRa certified module. Is he automatically certified?
Well, it depends. Again, that is covered in the program management document. And I strongly encourage all of you members that have these kinds of basic kind of questions for certification to look there first. The answer is likely in there. And if it's not, then we need to make sure that it gets in there. But a lot of those things are answered in the program management document. And so the reason I say it depends is it depends on how much, if any, change you make to that certified module. The intent with certified modules is to make it as painless as possible for our members to get their devices certified. So that was the intent in terms of how we wrote the policies around that. And again, I recommend that you take a look at the program management document.
Well, I've got a few more questions. We're going to have to answer those later in the chat or send those out a different way. But let's take one more last question. Is LCTT available only to LoRa Alliance members? And can it be tested in the development phase even before joining the LoRa Alliance? Sometimes it takes a while because of the cost is what they're saying. So it's a two-part question. Is it? Go ahead.
Well, I guess answering the first part is kind of an answer to the second part. LCTT is only available to LoRa Alliance members. It's one of the benefits that we offer our membership, and I don't foresee that changing anytime in the near future. On occasions, to I guess kind of somewhat address the second part of that, we do ask some of our members who have some specific technical skill sets to kind of do some debugging in that on beta versions of LCTT prior to us bringing them out, and that's been very successful. We have a number of members that have helped us out with doing some of the validation testing and beta testing of LCTT when we're getting ready to bring out a version that has a new feature or something. Typically, it's something like that.
Well, in summary, I'd like to just say thank you all for the attendance. Thank you, Paul, for your knowledge on this and answering most of those questions. And please feel free to reach out to us via email or the Alliance website and continue to ask your questions. Thank you so much for the attendance today, and we're glad to see the good turnout.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. And we'll send these links out to you here after the call.